Asteroid of fear.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. And Merry Christmas. I don't think you can see my shirt, but it's like a Christmas story. Let's see. Oh, fudge. Oh, fudge is right. It's under. I'm actually recording this Christmas Eve. Wow. Here in the great state of Texas, it is raining. Cats and dogs, it is thundering. And this is later than I wanted, but when duty calls, literally, as a caregiver, that's what you got to do. But let's pick up on the last part of my story. Because, like I said before, we will be ending this podcast on Saturday. I'll do one final episode, and then we're going to be transitioning into your peak performance partner and everything associated with that. But a little bit more about me so you know about me, what got me here, and that way you'll hopefully be interested in working with me as your accountability coach or peak performance coach, whatever you want to call it. The point is to become the best version of yourself. That's what peak performance is. You against your potential, not, this is, you don't have to be Michael Phelps or Aaron Rodgers. It's not necessarily sports related in terms of peak performance. It is you against yourself, being the best version of yourself, operating at the highest level in whatever you do, whatever your profession is, your personal life, your love life, your health, your wealth, all of it. So, what do I have this peak performing? Well, I have a life by design. Um, I work hard, but I don't have to ask anyone to take off, this, that, the other. I mean, sort of as a live-in caregiver. Yeah, this is all by design. I get to be the father and the husband I want to be and get to be around. Um, I'm not messing around in traffic. I'm not messing around with corporate office politics. So, yeah, I live the life I want to live. You should live the life you want to live. And if you need help with that, hit me up. So, 2015, we're in Austin. I'm in grad school doing that thing. Around this time, Christmas Eve-ish, maybe the 27th. I don't know what it was. I'm driving home from the 7P to 7A shift that I worked all those years, 6 years. And I get a call. They're interested in interviewing me where I currently live, which was near my family. And I'm getting ready to go to one of my intense semesters of school to meet up with my cohort, do the intense week, come back, do the rest. I'm like, okay, I'll squeeze in some interviews during this time. Either I'll leave early or I forget how it was. And I go back to Austin, come back for a second set of interviews with the CEO of this small hospital because it was going to be running a clinic located inside of a hospital, run by two different entities, but kind of controlled by the hospital. A whole other story. Um, and the physicians, and I get the job. And it is time, with a 1-year-old to relocate, be near family. I'm working on my master's, going into management, time to make some more money, be a provider, be a supporter, give my wife an opportunity. She's not going to have to work. And so that's what we do. We relocate. And I begin a job as a clinic manager running a family practice clinic with visiting specialties located inside of a hospital. This is also where I got my first lesson in office politics and being used as a pawn. So, um, yeah, it was run. The clinic was owned by kind of like the clinic. The clinic was located in the hospital. The CEO of the hospital, which is run on the hospital side, kind of controlled the clinic. Well, it came time to do fit testing, and um, our policy is on the clinic side, you do not fit test. And there was all this blah, blah, blah. You got to obey this. And I was like, no, they were going by the policy. And well, it pissed the CEO off. And not long after that, I was taken to lunch and told that on a Thursday, Monday, I would be at a new clinic. And that's what happened. And even some of the doctors who cussed me out and didn't like me, Billy Dan, yeah, he was like, well, this, we actually like you. This was, came from high above. We couldn't stop it. So yeah, the CEO didn't like that. And he should can me to another place. I don't guess they could fire me, but they could relocate me. And that was a blessing in disguise. But it didn't start off that way because they had recently gotten a new manager, and I think they were just now warming up to her. And then I come in, they relocate this manager, put me there, and yeah, nobody's ever happy when they get a new manager, even if the new manager's good. I mean, years later, I would go on, I think, to earn their respect and become a tier one leader, meaning as it relates to employee engagement, associate engagement. They felt I was a good leader. I listened to them. I valued them, valued their input. And so that was a big deal to me. My proudest accomplishments, actually. But it didn't start off that way. It took a while, you know, it took years. Because, like I said, nobody's necessarily excited when somebody new comes along. And so, you know, then you fire one or two people, and then they don't want to train you how to do end of day, end of month, and you're having to learn how to do it. And you know, lucky for me, my mom had been with the system 30 something years, had plenty of ways plugged in many ways, new people, and had somebody help train me. However, you know, that didn't count the endless hours on the weekends with stacks of financials trying to set up and run reports because it takes a whole day, and then coming in the next day and trying to get it all done, you know. But I got through it. I learned how to do it, and eventually by the time I left, I probably had two or three people I trained who could do it. And only when it didn't hash out and they couldn't find the error, then I would step in and find the error. So, but yeah, you know, I learned a lot. I got to participate in some committees as it relates to, you know, when a big system purchases a smaller system, and then you start streamlining supplies because you want purchasing power with, you know, the people you buy from, Cardinal Health, um, those kind of people. And so, you know, participating, whether it's saving money, you call it, you know, looking at everything. Are you all using, how much are you buying, spending on bottled water? Are you giving every patient a bottled water? Employee drinking water. We ended up going to Berkey systems, which a lot of people didn't like, but the filters and return on investment of those versus, let's say, as X amount of clinics were spending $15,000 a year on, you know, 5 gallon water jugs for dispensers. That's a lot, you know. And then they come in with these machines that hook directly into your water lines, like where the water fountains are. And I had to make sure I was recording. And, you know, you can rent those as well. But looking at all kinds of different things, and you know, we saved about 250 grand, I think, maybe the first year, and maybe 1 million by the last time, by the time I left. But you know, I learned quite a bit, had quite a few great experiences. Um, Worked with some good physicians, worked with some bad physicians. Um, Nurses the same, front desk the same. But yeah, you learn a lot. I still go to that clinic that I used to manage because I trust them. They're great people, and they reflect the standard that I had when I was there, which I think was a standard of excellence. I'm very particular. I can be a dick. I like things a certain way. But it was one of the better top performing clinics in terms of productivity and patient satisfaction. And you had a lot of the, family members of associates who went to that clinic kind of because of where it was located, older retired people with money. And so you had to make a good impression. And um, because if you didn't, I was going to hear about it because typically it was some VP or somebody's family member or they themselves coming in. We did pretty well. Um, I enjoyed it. I learned quite a bit. Love taking care of people. Obviously, coming from the ER into that, serving a passion, leading people, giving people, I felt like my job in the ER, making sure everybody had the tools and resources to take care of the patients. Being a manager was kind of the same, only you have more influence. Um, yeah, more responsibility too. But yeah, it took a while to earn respect. And I'll tell one story I think that kind of helped. And I think I've told it before, but we had a dog that got run over and it was kind of on our property by the mailbox and nobody wanted to move it. Um, DPS didn't want to get it. Animal control, it's like, well, it's on your property. Well, if you kick it in the road, maybe we'll do something. Maintenance is like, I can throw it in the dumpster, and I'm in a meeting and I'm getting texts like, I'm just like, well, just give me a minute. And once the meeting was over, I went and got my grandfather's truck, got my neighbor to dig a hole, had one of my nurses brought a tarp. We picked up the dog, put it in the truck, and I went and buried it. Because I knew if I ever saw the people who owned the dog, I could tell them, yes, it was hit. Yes, it got buried. Because it was about 4 days prior that somebody pulled into the parking lot while I was getting out and they parked in a doctor's spot. And I'm like, hey, you can't park there. And they were like, oh, we're trying to get our dog. He was running away. And I had passed that dog on the way to the clinic, and it was that same dog that got hit. So, yeah. And at that moment, kind of my thoughts were, well, look, everyone is looking to me as the leader to do the right thing. They expect for me to do what's right. And kicking it into the road or throwing it in the dumpster was not the right thing to do. And I think I did what was right, and things were different after that. I had a little respect. They knew that I was willing to do what was right, even if it was difficult. It was also one of the times in 2016 that Andrew and I did the Bataan Death March for a second time. And part of that was making that public commitment to my team. Hey, I was going to do 26.2 miles through White Sands Missile Range. And I did. I completed it. And that was about, hey, you guys have a leader who is willing to do hard things. He says he's going to do it, and he does it. And so, yeah, it was years after that, probably 2017, 2018, probably 2018 that I was a tier one leader. So, yeah, I think I even had a write up during that time. You can hear about it on the Uncomfy podcast. I want an episode of that. Go listen to all about it. But, having to come back from that, yeah. So, to reach a tier one status where they felt I was a good leader meant the world to me because there's not a lot of. So, moments bring us to systems gobbling up systems, getting new directors, not being on the same page, kind of everything being just them not doing me right with money. I was very unhappy anyway. Um, and then 2020 happens, the pandemic. I worked 9 months of it, March, and got laid off in December of 2020. First, I was kind of devastated because 44, that was the first and only time I've ever been fired, let go, laid off, whatever you want to call it. I knew it was a business decision due to COVID because everything was shut down, yada, yada, yada. And I was okay for a while. And then I kept like applying to new jobs and just nothing was really panning out. And my wife was on my ass about the jobs. And I had spreadsheets. I had like applied to 300 jobs and just no luck, man. It was depressing. You know what it was. Then probably started drinking a lot. And then I ended up with this job in the dark arts, managing a shop that was kind of a smoke shop, adult novelty store. They sold toys, clothes, different things for ladies of the night and or exotic dancers, tattoo equipment. I worked and managed that for a little bit, and there was a point in there that maybe I thought I was okay, but my wife wasn't happy because I was not living up to my potential. As you could imagine, if you've listened to all of this story and listened to some of the things I've done, yeah, probably having strippers show me their tatas while on duty is not living up to my potential. Um, Not probably something you want your daughter or anything to follow in as well. So yeah, that was a rough time, and you know, there were some different things that happened, and at that time I was on antidepressants and all kinds of stuff, and oh, just kind of everything came to a head where I got rid of that job, had COVID, and wasn't sure if I was going to remain married or not, all in one week, all in one day, felt like. But I don't know, I carried a lot of anger through that for a while and continued to probably more abuse myself. And then maybe I started thinking about doing stuff and I was applying to jobs and maybe considering, it's probably Ubering, listening to a lot of podcasts. Probably my dad and my daughter were telling me start a podcast and I was still applying to jobs. And um, June 2023 said I want to stop drinking, stopped that, kind of started walking, started the podcast in July of 2023 because I needed a direction, something to do. Nobody thought it would go anywhere. And here we are. I became consistent maybe October, November of 2023. And then I think I got some emails from Hunter from the Podcast Connection Network. Everything's connected. And in January, I was this broken spiritually, emotionally guy. Was like, I didn't even want to read the email. Had my wife read it, said only read it to me if it's positive because I was just so fragile emotionally. It was positive, and I joined the Podcast Connection Network, and those guys just boosted me up so much, gave me confidence. They saw something in me, saw what I was about. They held space for me. And kind of through that in these weekly meetings, me saying we each would choose two things to do a week, and I would usually crush it kind of on the accountability side. And kind of where I got the idea for accountability coaching. And I'd given it to another guy, Neff's Inspiration, when I did an interview with him. And considered it about myself. And, at some point in time, we were like, you need to sell something if you're going to have a podcast. And, because Amber, therapeutic nutritionist Amber, she does coaching, nutrition coaching, holistic type stuff. And her podcast, Connection Over Perfection, is kind of in support of that. Hunter does life coaching and everything's connected. Men's emotional intelligence, stuff like that, is in support of that. And so now, we're going from Men of the House to your peak performance partner, which is accountability coaching, um, helping you reach your peak performance. Because, so yeah, I joined Podcast Connection Network, and then Alex Sanfilippo from Podmatch, Filippo, he gave me a ticket to one of the virtual events. I attended that, learned a lot, joined Podmatch, which Amber and Heather were already on. And then I got so many of those. I went to two a week and just started like pushing and pushing. And Heather from Mess Espresso had interviewed Kevin from NLU, and I'd heard that, and I got an interview with Kevin through Podmatch, and then his partner Alan, and kind of through interviewing them, I took advantage of these free sessions in July. Then I went into group coaching and then business coaching, and through all that and some courses, I've come up with yourpeakperformancepartner.com, which is going to be accountability coaching, or coaching in peak performance, purpose, finding purpose. Um, if you go back and you listen to everything I've gone through and what it's taken to get me here, and through group coaching, through now, I've been tracking habits, and I set up all my habits. I say this is what I want to work towards, and then they kind of get tweaked and evolved after each meeting. But this is what I'm aiming for. This is the habits that this kind of person with these behaviors does, and I do them. And it's kind of like a level up, another session. Okay, I'm working towards this, grow towards this. Bam, next thing, level up. And it just keeps repeating. And so it's kind of the same thing, me making one decision to start something that gave me something to focus on, gave me direction, has now led me here to want to help others find some purpose, find some direction, make a change, make a transformation. Because, I've lost 62 pounds. I've gone from 9 prescriptions to one. Um, Things I'm very proud of. It took a lot of work, 2 years. But what if I'd never started and I didn't see results for a while? I mean, I could have quit any time along the way because I didn't see the results. But I just trusted the process. I didn't even choose a New Year's resolution. I chose the word consistency with everything I do, which was working out and doing a podcast. And I'm going to end the year probably 111 episodes. Yeah, probably 60 pounds lost. Um, a completely different person than the person I was when I started this, than the broken person I was a year before that. Fat, overweight, probably on the brink of divorce. not being the person I wanted to be, miserable, knocking on 300 doors that didn't pan out for one reason or another. There were some jobs I rejected, but I've come further in this year with a podcast in terms of doors opening and opportunities than I did in 2 years, 3 years of looking and applying for jobs and doing Uber. So, yeah, that kind of brings us how we got here from healthcare to a helper to the man of the house to your peak performance partner. I mean, that is all about me. But nobody believed in me at first. It was up to me. Then Hunter, Podcast Connection Network, Amber, they were the first people to believe in me and see something in me and give me some confidence. And then I just had to keep showing up along the way. Like when I said I'm going to do 2 a week, I had to push it. And then I now took on this live-in caregiver thing, and I've even been pushing that. I've reached the lowest weight I've been 20 years, doing 2 to 3 episodes a week, taking care of somebody who can't walk or stand on their own, crushing my habit tracker, working out sometimes twice a day because I'm training for a 20-miler in February. Trying to be a good father, a good husband, be engaging on social media, recording, editing, clipping, uploading, business coaching, participating in accountability groups, having my own accountability group, trying to launch a business, getting 2 coaching courses completed, credited, working on another course while building a website. Got a few things going on. And I want to add a few things in 2025. So we're going to be shifting everything. That is all about me. You're going to hear the last episode for a little bit before the rebranding on Saturday. And yeah, just look forward for the things to come. Look at the evolution. Go back, check out these episodes. It's always going to be there under the Men of the House podcast on YouTube, no matter what the logo and stuff changes from. But have a Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy the episode. Merry Christmas 2024. Let's make 2025 the best year yet. So don't get caught slipping, especially when it comes to keeping promises to yourself. That's how you build confidence. And that's how you get to where you want to go. So hit me up. Let me help you do all the shit that I did for myself. Quit drinking, whatever it is. Lose some weight. We can start small. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. I've seen and heard so many things. I promise, no judgment. There's nobody more surprised than myself. I'm alive, not dead, or in prison. So, yeah, let's not get to that point. Let me help you become the best version of yourself in 2025. All right, go and be the person that you would want to meet.
Hey, yo.